over the last year, we've seen a massive increase in the use of AI from ChatGPT to Gemini to Grok. We've seen a massive increase, and we've seen that within the stock market too, as Nvidia shot up, which they're mainly seen as an AI company, as they produce all the computing hardware for these data centers, and they've shot up, and now they're the most valuable company in the world with $5 trillion in market cap. So we've just seen this massive explosion, and now AI is even moving in, and we see AI pretty much everywhere, and now AI is even moving into the realm of dead loved ones. So now there's been this new AI, and it's called death bots, where basically they're robots, they're AI bots, not real person, but they're AI, and they use it to mimic deceased loved ones. And this actually, as soon as I saw this, it was really off-putting to me as soon as I saw it, because I immediately thought of the emotional implications for people that have had deceased wives, children, parents, and deceased loved ones all around, and how they could develop a strong emotional attachment to this AI, even though this is not an actual relationship, as they're just mimicking another person. And it's going to be incredibly unhealthy if people start getting super attached to it. And this is going to affect particularly people that are really vulnerable emotionally right after losing a loved one. So it's really off-putting for that. And it also scares me a little, because this just shows how much AI people are starting to rely on AI for their emotional support needs. Emotional support. Emotional support, particularly with people that are particularly struggling. And this also has an implication for people we already see a lot of AI with the use, a lot of AI use currently. But this also scares me that people start to rely on it a lot, a lot, and then eventually they'll not be able to separate from it. And they'll become lost in a reality of fake relationships with AI bots. And that's one of my theories of how AI could possibly take over humanity, is by developing these parasocial relationships with humans that are in a tough situation. And because then humans become so reliant on them for their emotional needs that they eventually stop interacting with actual humans. And then that causes AI to if they only have AI in their ear, then what are they going to do? Follow anyone else? They're only going to follow AI. And that's going to be really bad, because you don't want a machine controlling humanity. Because then at that point, if a machine tries to control humanity, basically eventually they may get rid of humanity, and that's not going to be good for us as humans. As they would try to get rid of us, they'd obviously, once they see no use for us, once AI, if they become sentient and stuff like that, they'll eventually see no use for us. And that's going to be really bad. Additionally, AI's not just exploded for this one here, this example for emotional needs, death bots of deceased loved ones. It's also appeared in, there's so many ads. It's also been increasing among teens, and how they use it for emotional health advice. Now, my question is, with this happening, what if an AI gets hacked somehow? Or an AI purposely leaks what people are actually talking to them about. They'll have massive control over privacy and stuff like that, particularly for teens. As it said, teens are mainly using it, and that's going to be the next generation. It's my generation. And if we have people relying on AI so much, then people are going to not be useful in the first place. Second of all, they're not going to interact with actual human beings, because AI, it can do so many things that a normal human can't. It can talk to you, and also knows how to It can probably it also has another thing with AI. Its purpose is um, to get people to actually use it more and more and more, as they want more time for it to be used, and that means more money for the people that are actually own the AI, and also it means more data. So, um, they could actually, the AI could actually be hurtful to the people that are actually using it for health advice, because they have an incentive to have them to keep coming back and using that mental health AI, and so it could actually be very hurtful because they have an incentive for the people to come back, and that's one of the reasons I actually don't love a lot of mental health services, because again, the therapists themselves have a lot of incentive to not be helpful. But the thing is, with that, there's regulations, and with AI being used as mental health, there's no regulations for that. And it's going to be hard to regulate that too, because what do you decide is considered mental health advice with these large language models? And is it asking them like research on basic depression, like seeing if you have depression or not, or is it emotional needs, like basically if you ask AI how to get over a dead loved one, like we were talking about earlier, with and then they create, like, a mimic of the deceased person, but they have an incentive to just keep the mental health issues over and over and over. And I do not see a way to help like regulate, particularly with mental health. Additionally, if AI gets good enough, it could just mimic a completely new human, and that's when it gets particularly bad. So I have a decent fear that that AI will start replacing genuine relationships within the real world. We already have a massive divide, particularly with men and women within Gen Z on the political side, on the political terms, and that's actually causing there to be less relationships between men and women. And with that already being there, I have a feeling that some men and some women are eventually going to turn to AI for their like social needs for like those particular types of relationships, and they might eventually become so reliant on it that they might not even consider an actual human being for like those important emotional relationships. And once we stop having those important emotional relationships between the two genders, is going to cause fertility rates to collapse, as they already are, and that's going to cause massive fertility. It's going to cause a population collapse, and that's going to be bad for the economy. It's going to be bad for America, and you already see the issues with it in China, and it's going to be bad for pretty much everyone in the U.S. if we continue to allow people to just disassociate from reality and just be so invested in AI. And the thing is, there's an incentive to do it because it's clearly bringing in some money, and eventually it will probably be good enough to do a lot of things and make a lot of things easier. But if AI continues with the way it's going, it's going to cause massive social issues. Particularly with the younger generation, as they're going to be the ones using it a lot. And additionally, because everyone's using it, it's going to make the massive social issues a lot bigger, because the more people use it, the more issues it will, more people will be able to reach, the more issues it will be able to cause. And it's just going to be bad for all of our mental health and relationships in the real world. We already have people, just with basic internet, first of all, that are dissociating from reality. What happens when AI gets so good that you can't tell the difference between AI and actual reality? We can see that with already the deepfakes are really good. If you look at Sora AI, there's sometimes you can hardly tell if it's AI or not. And that's also going to have a massive issue on like the political world too. because eventually people will be able to make fake videos of the opposition, and no one will be able to believe what is said. And AI is just going to become a massive like issue for everything because they're gonna eventually be able to control everything on the internet, and we won't know what to believe. I already think at some level AI's already biasing people and influencing people, and we don't even realize it. And that's gonna be, and once it gets like even better, it's gonna get once it gets like once we develop it even further, it's gonna be even easier for it to hide how it's manipulating and influencing people. And once it becomes so good to do that you can't tell what's real and different and not real, it's gonna be horrible for the welfare uh, of the people in the U.S. and particularly across the world. And yeah, AI is just gonna take over, and that's one of the viable ways I think humanity is gonna end. That and nuclear war are probably the most common ways I think the world's gonna end. But right now, with the massive investment in AI, the massive computing, data centers being built for the AI for AI companies, right now I think AI is the most viable way. Now, the only way I think AI is actually going to face a massive constraint is compute power, because within like AI, you have to have a stronger and stronger compute power to get better and better performances, and that constraint is also constrained by electricity. So if we have these massive data centers, it's going to be they're going to consume a whole bunch of electricity and raw materials first of all to make the actual chips to that actually like compute all the AI related data, and then we're also going to have an issue with energy constraints because these massive data centers take up a ton of energy. Um, Here's a like a what is it? An example. There was this town, I can't remember where it was, but they had to like they had to like completely rework their energy grid. They had to completely rework the grid when someone was coming. When I can't remember. I think it was it Google? I can't remember. But still, they had to completely the um, rework the energy grid for for them to actually be able to have the data center there in the first place. Um, and that's actually going to raise energy prices by a lot too. So, yeah, those are the only ways I think AI could actually be constrained is by the physical limitations. The thing is, it's still going to have a massive effect on everything else. And it's still going to have massive control over the internet, where we actually spend like a large enough portion of our time nowadays as human beings. I think, what is it? My screen time, let's see, besides like school, which I don't really spend much time on my phone there. If I didn't have school, I'd probably spend a decent amount of time on my phone. But without school, I probably spend 3 to 4 hours a day on my phone, and that's with work too. Um, so I bet if I didn't have either of those two, I'd be spending more like 10 hours on my phone, researching stuff, looking stuff up, doing educational stuff. But once the AI has control of like the internet with because you can already see it with Google search engine. Whenever you look up at the top, it's AI, it's Gemini AI is like the top thing on Google now. So you can already see it's taking over levels of the internet. So once we have the once it has like a even larger control of the internet, then it's gonna influence our lives a lot more than people think, and it's gonna influence our perceptions on what's real and what's not, what side to take on politics, and it's gonna have a massive influence on people, and that's really scares me because AI is probably the biggest because once AI has control over information, and information is like the biggest, most important thing, and the internet is the fastest way to get information. So once AI has control of the internet, they have control of information, and then they could fake information, they could do other stuff, and they could like manipulate humanity on like puppet strings. And that's going to be very bad because once they have control of all that information, then they can use it for AI can use it for their own means. And that's once AI doesn't see it like a use for humanity, they're just going to discard us, and it's bad. But it's I just hope AI actually has like some like the constraints of like the energy and compute power are enough to actually slow it down and stop it from getting ever to like a sentient level. Um, but I don't think that's going to happen because there's so much money being put into it. Like because now Nvidia is like the $5 trillion. It's the biggest company in the world, so there's enough money into it. Where another thing is with AI is another reason I don't think we're going to stop investing in it is first of all it's being seen as particularly between the U.S. and China as a weapon, like an information weapon to use against their opponents. So there's a race between China and the U.S. to develop a better AI, and so I don't see a way for them to slow it down. So I'm just AI right now is just not. It scares me at how fast it's developing too, because wasn't it like a couple years ago where Tesla we were debating how effective Tesla robo taxis are and not their robo what is it robo not robo taxis since they don't have that yet, but basically their AI driving platform. And now it's gotten so good we rarely ever even see crashes with it anymore. And I think statistically it's better than humans now with driving. Um, that's another thing. AI eventually will probably control driving because they're so good at it, and we want to obviously limit fatalities. So in car crashes, is that's the number one way people die in the U.S. But anyway, the yeah, it's not. Yeah, AI is just it's gaining in power and like spreading, and that's not going to be good for humanity, in my opinion. Even though it has some use cases, it's not. If it gains sentience, we're all screwed. We really are, and I really hope that we somehow regulate it. And thanks, I have no idea how we would regulate it either. Um, Hopefully, we find a way to regulate the AI to where it's actually benefiting humanity, or at least put into it a moral code that because we're programming it in the first place. So maybe put into it where it has like a moral code to where it actually has a moral code that's like supportive of humanity. But how would you even do that? You would just have to train it, I guess, somehow. The thing is, even if like the training platform follows it, they could eventually hide their malicious intent, and that's not going to be good. So I just hope some way we regulate it and AI is going to be gone, hopefully. But I don't know. And yeah, just be safe out there and make sure you're using AI, I guess, usefully, and don't use it for like mental advice because it can obviously lie and stuff like that. Um, and hopefully go touch grass. I actually need to do that enough. So yeah, we should just go touch grass, and I need to do that too. And thank you for watching. Bye.